Swing and a fly ball to left field. Way back! Way back!
You're listening to Binnall of America Audio.
1 ball, 2 strikes, 2 out, 2 on. Here's the pitch to Jason. Swinging a high fly ball to deep right center field. Edmonds going back toward the triangle, looking up, and it is off the side wall of the triangle, out by the door. Here comes Manny. Ortiz right behind him. Veritek to third. He flies in with a triple.
Wrapping up the whole big baseball special, we bring back a guest from our BOA Audio early days. Greg Bishop makes his long-awaited return to the program. He'll have a rebuttal for Kimball and the Red Sox ufology moment. He'll have a rebuttal for Go Rightly and the Dodgers MK Ultra story. Plus, we'll talk about baseball in general, ufology in general, and an update on what Greg's been up to since he appeared on BOA Audio back in the day. Here now is Greg Bishop in the final segment of the BOA Audio Baseball Special.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're continuing onward here with the baseball special, and our guest now is a former BOA Audio guest. He was on the show really right at the very beginning of Binnall of America Audio, and I'll always appreciate him for that. And maybe I should put him over here on this one instead of when I'm on his show this weekend, because not to make him uncomfortable. But he's Greg Bishop. He's the author of Project Beta. He's one of the members of the great blog UFO Mystic. And he's here to talk about baseball with us, and he's a big Dodgers fan, so we're going to discuss baseball and esoterica and how they tie in a little bit. And welcome back to the show, Greg.
Thanks, Tim. You had me on at the very beginning, huh? Because I was the only one that said yes then. Now anybody will come on your show.
That's almost a close approximation to how it worked, I think. Well,
glad I could help.
To pull the curtain back a little bit, what happened is that I had written something about you on the website and then about your appearance on Coast to Coast.
Oh, that's right. And I answered. I said, somebody listened and they actually cared.
Yeah, and then I said, you know, we're starting up a show of our own. You should come on. And then you were like, sure. And next thing you know, you were like our 5th guest ever. So I appreciate that. And
who was the first one?
Jim Mars.
Oh, okay. He's a cool guy. I got to watch him sing. What was it? We went to the karaoke bar at Laughlin, and he sang Great Balls of Fire.
Oh, wow, nice.
You'll never guess the thing I picked. I'd never sang karaoke before, but I did that night.
I can't even imagine. What would you have picked? My Way or something?
No, Ziggy Stardust. Everybody was singing Elvis and and Tim McGraw and stuff. I was like, screw it, I'm going to sing Bowie.
There you go. Do something that's not overdone at the
exactly
at the karaoke hall. Now, as I was saying before we started here, we had Greg Bishop on. I mean, no, you were Greg Bishop. We had Paul Kimball on earlier. I talked to him, and he was giving me his point of view on the ufology Red Sox moment. And then when you and I were talking about doing this, you had taken a different stance on that. So maybe we should do like a counterpoint on the Red Sox ufology discussion to kick off the baseball talk.
Yeah, well, Paul wrote a piece, which you just reminded me of, about the ufology and the Red Sox moment. And basically it was fans of the Red Sox waited, and they got rid of the Bambino curse from throwing the piano in the lake or whatever it was. And he said that if ufology works hard enough and waits long enough or whatever, they'll have that defining, crowning moment when everything's wonderful and everybody that's been struggling along for so long gets their just reward or whatever. And I was inclined to disagree with that because the main reason is because people have to change the way they think about things and our model of the world before that answer comes to us, I think.
And so you think just that, like we were saying, since things don't just start over for ufology, that all the baggage and everything is still going to be there. It's not like if your pitcher's awful one year, he may have a turnaround year the next year. It's not like that. A bad researcher isn't just going to stop doing shitty things. Yeah,
exactly. What I said a little earlier was that it's like, somebody doesn't erase the blackboard and start clean every spring. The blackboard still has, dust on it, things written on it before, kids writing fart on there and all that, and it's going to stay there forever. And the way it's going, that blackboard's going to be full of junk with nothing to show for it, as far as I can see, until, like I said, there's some kind of big change in consciousness or the way science is done and performed before we can get our minds and our philosophies and a handle on what the UFO thing is, because as soon as you say it's one thing, there's about 5,000, but what about this?
Yeah.
And if everybody thinks it's like, well, we'll find out that it's aliens coming from another planet and that they've been here for a while and the government knows about it, and I don't think it's far more complicated than that.
Yeah.
And to come to some, I think the defining moment, there'll be a lot of defining moments, and some of them have already happened. Like when John Keel and Jacques Vallée started saying, "Hey, wait a second, there's no evidence really that these things come from other planets and are piloted by extraterrestrials, really."
Yeah.
Let's look at that. And those books and those ideas were defining moments, and nobody really chose to pay too much attention to it. And they still don't, which kind of perplexes me. I think more people are paying attention to it than they did, because people born after like 1960, 70, 80 or whatever are more open to those ideas, I think, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, there seems to be a sea change going on as far as researchers being open to like all different areas of research.
Yeah, they're in a minority right now, but they've actually got a voice now. And then media's changing so rapidly. Like you said a few weeks ago when I talked to you, and like Paul said when I talked to him on Sunday, the people that espouse the ETH, the extraterrestrial hypothesis, a lot of them very, very knowledgeable, really smart, but they don't want to get on the internet and go on podcasts and do blogs and all that, and I don't understand that. Well, I guess I do, because people get old and set in their ways, and they say, a bunch of stupid computer crap, I don't want to worry about it, but they're getting left in the dirt because of this, and nobody's going to listen to them.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate.
Yeah, that's for sure. It'll be interesting to see where ufology goes as this generational shift sort of changes over time, what happens with this extraterrestrial thing.
Yeah. So, like I said, there's the instead of having a big celebration, it's finally over, everybody knows, like the Red Sox or the Cubs almost did it a couple of years ago, but then Dusty Baker got him out of it. Now, who was the when they got to the playoffs? Who was the manager then? Was it who was the manager before Baker?
I don't know. All I remember is that guy Bartman who caught the ball and it was like to run him out of town.
Yeah, well, that's a defining Cubs moment.
Yeah, I'll say.
And just in the way the Cubs always are, which is let's do something exactly the wrong way and screw ourselves up. I've got a friend that's a Cubs fan, so I'm using his words, not mine. I'm trying to think of a good analogy in ufology for some idiot catching the ball and screwing everything up. I don't know. I guess it would be people like Sean Morton or who's that guy, Jonathan Reed, the guy with that captured the alien and killed it and took a bunch of pictures, and people found out that he was just a big liar and had been doing it all his life.
Yeah. So as things seem to be going well, and they're making it to the playoffs of ufology, if you will. We use this analogy actually, and when I was talking to Kimball too. Then there's the Sean David Mortons are the Bartmans of this situation, who just caused the complete turnaround of the game by interfering, if you will.
Yeah, and Paul seems to be kind of upset about people that make ufology look bad. But the thing is, ufology itself makes itself look bad, because it's there's no direction in it. They keep hammering at the same thing. I mean, they keep banging their head on the wall, not realizing if they stop banging their head on the wall, it won't hurt anymore. With this extraterrestrial hypothesis, because it's gotten us nowhere. So that's another thing that I talked about with Paul. He was talking about atheists and agnostics and believers, like religious fanatics, and the idea. I mean, he was saying, well, they're arguing that there is a God, and the other side arguing that there isn't a God. And after he finished his spiel, I said, well, maybe they're arguing around the wrong premise. So I think that's what ufology is doing, has been doing for 50 or 60 years, especially in the last few years at least since the mid-'60s and early '70s, when other ideas were put out there, and they continue to argue around the same. It's aliens from another planet. No, there's no such thing. They can't get here. On the other side, it's like round and round and round and round, and it's never going to end.
Now, why do you think just to stick with the UFO discussion here for a minute before I ask you about the another baseball thing, but why do you think you said in the late '60s or whatever, early '70s, things were okay till then? Why do you think all of a sudden it just became ETH all or nothing, for lack of a better expression? Why do you think everybody sort of threw all their eggs into the ETH basket back then and still do now?
Well, I think it's because it seemed like the most logical thing.
Yeah.
It still seems like a very logical argument. And it is. But what I'm saying is it's not the only argument. It's not the only way to look at it. There's so many other ways to look at it, interdimensional things or time travelers or
crypto-terrestrials. Crypto-terrestrials.
Yeah, I can't wait for MacTony's book to come out, which is it's basically another evolutionary step past, from what I can tell, past stuff that John Keel wrote in the '60s and '70s.
Yeah.
Yeah, but all these ideas, I think people are comfortable with that idea. And a lot of people who are into UFOs, I think, have this us and them kind of thing where, we know this is going on and you don't, and, when you find out someday you'll know we're right. So there's some ego in there, too, but the UFO subject doesn't care about people's egos.
Exactly.
Doesn't care about their arguments. It continues on its merry way doing a myriad of things that are 90% of them are ignored.
And then one of the things here I want to ask you about was this old article you wrote, E.T. Play Ball, I think. Is that the title of it? Let me see here. I have it. Yeah. About the X-Files episode that tied Roswell in with baseball.
Yeah.
Just talk a little bit about that, and then I had actually sort of segued really well into a question that I've been raring to ask a guest for a while, and it's perfect for this. So
okay.
Tell me about that article first.
Okay, it was a while back. I just looked at it again, and I thought, did I write that? God, it's so bad. But the idea I like. The idea was, let's put two subjects together, baseball and UFOs, and see what I come up with. Robert Anton Wilson idea. Take two things that don't seem very, very well connected and discuss them in relationship to each other. And the first thing I thought of, well, there was a baseball team, a minor league team in Roswell in the 1940s and 50s. I think it was the Longhorn League. And the name of the team was the Roswell Rockets, which is fun enough, and it's basically because Robert Goddard had done his early rocket research in Roswell in the 1930s. So the baseball team was called the Rockets. There was a guy on the baseball team named Joe Bauman, who I think has since passed away, but he had the home run record until Mark McGwire broke it. But it was it was the home run record for all of baseball. I think he hit 72 or something, or 71 home runs in a season. And it wasn't official because it was a minor league. It wasn't a major league record. But it was the record in every league, unless there was one in the Negro Leagues, which we don't know about because of the record keeping wasn't so good. Anyway, I think that David Duchovny, who wrote and certainly directed that, I think it was called the Unnatural, a play on the natural.
Yeah.
It was about an alien that crashed in a ship and survived, and for some reason became so fascinated with baseball that he shapeshifted himself into a Negro League player so he could play baseball in some fictional southwestern town. Those are the issues that came up when I was thinking about it. Who would think that the Roswell incident and baseball had any kind of connection? And yeah, it's tenuous at best, but it gets you thinking on a few different levels. And I like doing that. I do that on the blog too. I'll put things up there just to, people say, this is crap and this isn't very important. I said, yeah, but it's fun to think about, isn't it?
Yeah.
It leads you into areas that you wouldn't normally think about, and there might be some gold there. Exactly,
kind of like this baseball special we're doing here on Binnall of America Audio.
Yeah, I don't know if we hit any of the gold yet. That's for you and the audience to do.
The question that I wanted to ask you, and noteworthy here, because this does sort of deal with that segregation of baseball. And one thing that somebody asked me, I was at the crash retrieval conference in Vegas, and I met someone who was a reporter or journalist, researcher, or whatever, for a Canadian TV series, and she didn't know anything about UFOs and the UFO scene. And she asked one of the most interesting questions I'd heard that I had never really put together myself. And she was like, "Where are all the black people?"
Yeah.
And so that's something that I've wanted to ask some guests, and I haven't really gotten around to it yet, but it's definitely one of those issues that I wanted to discuss. And where do you think why do you think there's no, at the very least, prominent black people in ufology, or, even, I've never even really seen any black people at the conventions that I've been to. I mean, now, I wasn't looking in the last, the first two I went to, but after this girl said that, I looked, and she was right. So, what's going on with that? What do you think that's all about?
I don't really know, except for the fact that the way people talk about things in ufology is kind of in a detached way. And most of the black people I know, friends of mine, they don't like to talk about things in a detached, analytical way. They like to talk about things in a very down-to-earth, well, how the hell does this affect me and what difference does it make kind of way.
Yeah.
As far as, I don't want to sound like I'm being racist or trying to put a bunch of people in a category, but that's my impression. And the other thing is I don't really, find it in ufology now, but in kind of the fringes of ufology, the craziest people, a lot of them are kind of racist.
Yeah.
I'm not going to name names, but, sometimes I get surprised. I'll be at a convention and people start talking. It's like, where the hell did this come from? What does this have to do with ufology?
Yeah, I know what you mean, yeah.
Talking about, international bankers, and you know what that means.
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
I've heard that a few times too, yeah.
That might be another thing. It's like, why would I want to go to a convention with a bunch of uptight, possibly racist wackos?
Exactly, yeah.
There's one guy, his name is something Bert or Bert something. I can't remember his name. Who's with MUFON Orange County. I think he wrote a book called Ufology 101.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember his name for the life of me, but that's the only person I can think of that's a black guy in ufology. The other thing was in Project Beta, there was a scientist working at Sandia Labs at the time that all that stuff was going on in the late 70s and early 80s. His name was Henry Monteith. Mm-hmm. He is a black guy. I think he grew up in the South. But he became a physicist, and he got hired to work on these government projects. And one of the other scientists told me he'd walk into this room, and he'd give his lecture, but he'd do it in this this Southern black accent kind of thing. And he said people were kind of surprised, like, what the hell is he doing here? How did he get to this point? Obviously the guy's intelligent. It was kind of this cognitive dissonance to them, who kind of people had grown up, I guess, in kind of a sheltered environment, that this guy would be there. But, he was there doing the research and doing, holding up his end on his research. But the funny thing was he got very interested in the UFO subject and tried to look at it from the information he had available to him working at Kirtland Air Force Base. And the funny thing was later I saw a video of him in this video called High Strange New Mexico, and he started talking about how him and his wife had been abducted by aliens and that she had been impregnated and had a hybrid kid, and I was like, what?
Yeah, wow, that's weird.
What's this guy doing? And then, I thought he had died, and then I find out that his first wife, she was black and from the South too. She had died, and he married this this white woman, and now they've done some sort of new age book about aliens and how they're here to save us, and very, very strange.
And was this the wife that was abducted with him?
No, this is a different woman.
Oh, okay. I thought they were trying to do like a Betty and Barney Hill for the new millennium or something.
No, well, maybe, but I don't think unless I haven't seen his book. I guess I'd like to get it because it's basically like a contactee book. But the guy was a scientist at Sandia Labs in the 1970s working on highly classified projects, 70s and 80s, and now he says aliens are coming here to save us.
Weird.
But yeah, that was Henry Monteith, and he's the only other person in the UFO field that's black that I even knew. I mean, he's not even really in the field. He's kind of a way off to the side, kind of very unknown person, but he at the time he was really interested in the UFO subject, and Bill Moore talked to him quite a bit. He had dinner at his house. He had thousands of books and hundreds on UFOs.
Huh.
He said he went into his library, which filled up a couple of rooms, and there were all these books on UFOs and physics and mathematics, and they're all in plastic bags.
Weird.
Yeah.
Wow, what a strange story.
Yeah, but it's just, I don't know. I don't think it's something that the black community is not really the Hispanic community in this country or any other ethnicity besides white people are interested in. And you asked that question in the first place, and I attempted an answer, but I don't really know why those people aren't interested. It's a strange thing. It might be a good subject for a doctoral dissertation or something.
Yeah, it's more of a sociology-based question, I think, than anything. It has nothing really to do with what's in the sky.
Yeah. You know what? One time I was interviewing Richard Boylan for for Excluded Middle. Regardless of what you think of him, I did give him a hard time because he was kind of being arrogant with me. At least I thought he was. Arrogant, and I mean that. I'd say, "How do you know this?" And how can you be sure? And his answer was, "I'm a doctor and I know more than you."
Oh, jeez.
But one question I asked him was, how come we don't hear about abductions in poor communities, in the black community, and in housing projects and all this other stuff? Why don't we hear about this kind of stuff? He goes, because people in those communities don't really want to talk about it. They figure they have it bad enough without having to come out and tell people they're being abducted by aliens. He goes, but it does happen in those communities. I know that for a fact. So. Yeah.
Huh. Now, to jump back into the baseball discussion here, I'm sure the UFO people are going to be like, "Oh man, what the hell is this guy doing?" But we'll jump into the baseball stuff. And you're a big Dodger fan. We had Go Rightly on, and he was talking about you being the big Dodger fan. So I don't know. Talk about your fandom here of the Dodgers, and you still following them as much as you were when the last time we had you on? Because I remember last time we had you on, you had to go to the game. So. Yeah,
well, I had season tickets, and then I got laid off of my job, and I couldn't afford them anymore. So I'm still following them, but I only bought like 20 games this season. But last season I went to about, I don't know, probably 20 or 30 games.
Oh, wow.
I sold the rest of them. I even went. I was there the night of the 4 homers.
Oh, cool.
And I don't think I'm ever going to see anything like that ever. And that's the last baseball game I went to on my season ticket. So I was kind of bittersweet.
Yeah.
They were down 3 runs, I think. Trevor Hoffman was pitching. The closer for San Diego, one of the best closers in the history of baseball. And on like something like 3 pitches, 2 home runs go out of the park. So they catch up, and people are going nuts. And then the Padres come at the next inning. They get a run in, and I'm thinking, okay, that's it. This could have been so perfect. And then in the bottom of the 9th, I can't remember who it was, Furcal or somebody. Rafael Furcal gets on base, and then Garcia Parra comes up and hits a home run, and they win it. Most amazing game I've ever seen. Apart from watching Jose Lima pitch a no-hitter in the playoffs a couple of years ago with the Dodgers and I think it was the Cardinals. But it was the only game they won, so they dropped out of the playoffs right away, which seems to be par for the course in the last few years.
Are you looking forward to the season for the Dodgers, or do you think they've improved much, or they not have improved enough, or what do you think? I know they lost J.D. Drew here to Boston.
Yeah, they did. I think they have improved, and they've improved in the most important place, which is in the pitching.
Yeah.
They still have Penny, and he's going to be good. I think he's going to be as good or better, even though he kind of tanked after the All-Star break. I don't know why. He went to the All-Star break, and he was throwing 100-mile-an-hour fastballs in the first inning.
Oh, wow.
He mowed him down. I think it was a 1-2-3 inning. And in the second inning, he did the same thing, and then they I can't remember who the next National League pitcher was, but Penny just mowed people down. I don't know where he pulled that 100-mile-an-hour, just one after the other, 100, 101, 102, 99. I was like, whoa, what's he doing? But he knew he was only going to be in for an inning or two, so he was just giving it everything.
Yeah.
And, it's a lot bigger stage than just the Dodger game.
Yeah. And now, my friend thinks the Dodgers don't do well because the attitude in the city of LA is sort of laid back, and especially, I guess the big joke with the Dodger games is that the people get there late and leave early or something because of the traffic.
I don't.
I figure you don't. You're a real fan. But is that sort of the attitude there, or is that just the?
That is by and large. If they're behind by a couple of runs in the eighth, people start pouring out of the stadium.
Oh man!
And they did that on that 4-homer night, and they're a bunch of idiots because they missed it.
Yeah, I'll say.
And you know what? I think that there was a study done about home field advantage. I think the Society of American Baseball Research did this study on home field advantage, and there isn't any.
Oh, really?
It makes a difference, as I remember. It makes a difference in the postseason by a little bit, but in the regular season, it didn't. The numbers didn't support it.
Huh. That's interesting.
And I'm not saying that's an excuse for LA or anything like that, but the people that are there,
apparently don't influence it as much as popular.
No, not really. But if things are really heated up, it's the postseason and all that. It's the place is crowded. There's never less than about probably 40,000, 40,000 people there. Sometimes, like if the Blue Jays come into town, there's 20,000. But when the Cardinals are there, it's sold out. When San Francisco's there, it's sold out. Now San Diego, actually, because I would have never thought a couple of years ago San Diego would be up here, would cause any interest. But at the end of last season, they were both they were practically tied for the first place and then the wild card, and then the Dodgers edged them out of the wild card by that 4-homer game. I think they were behind half a game before that game, and then they were in first place, and then they ended up being wild card, going to the playoffs, division series, and of course losing in 4 games. But doing stupid things like having 2 people cross the plate at practically the same time while Paul Lo Duca. You know what's funny? You're watching the Mets play the Dodgers in the playoffs, and the ball is hit to who's the right fielder for the Mets last year? I can't remember, but he was a former Dodger. He threw it into Jose Valentin, former Dodger. He relayed it to Paul Lo Duca, former Dodger. And there's 2 guys crossing the plate at the same time, and Lo Duca tags, I think, Kent, and then Drew comes through, and he's like, "Who's this guy?" He tags him too. So it was just this perfect divine screw up where the former Dodgers kept the present Dodgers out of the playoffs. It was a very depressing moment.
Now, what about the big steroids in baseball controversy? It sounded like when we were setting this up that you had a pretty passionate opinion about it. What you disgusted about the whole scene here now with this? I'm
not disgusted about it. I've got real strong feelings about testing for drugs. I can't stand that, but this is a little different thing. If somebody's using drugs to get ahead of somebody else who is not using drugs, I don't think that's fair. Somebody's going to make $5 million more than another guy that's trying to be on the up and up about it. I don't think it's right. And I don't know if these people should be shut out of baseball, but I think that they should be shut out of the record books because look at Barry Bonds. Before he started taking steroids, he was like a stick figure. Now he looks like Gargantua.
Yeah. Now Kimball says it's the fans' fault. What do you think of that?
I don't think anything the fans do very much affects the commissioner ever. He doesn't care. All he cares about I guess if the fans spoke with their money, that would affect it.
Yeah, I think that he said because they went home run crazy that the players and the owners were just giving them what they wanted. And I mean, I guess that's an interesting point of view. I didn't really think of it that way, but.
That's true, and I think home runs are completely overrated, and I don't like them. I mean, they're exciting and all that, but it's much more interesting to me when a manager and the players have the wherewithal, the brains, the guts, and most importantly, the talent to play baseball as a strategic game rather than just hitting home runs.
Yeah.
Do more small ball. Get some double steals in. Do some hit and runs. I don't see that near as often as I'd like to. Grady Little does that, and Jim Tracy would never do that. I don't know what the hell was wrong with the guy. That'd be a perfect situation for a hit and run, and he wouldn't put one on. It's like, what's wrong with this guy? He doesn't think. Or maybe he thought his players couldn't deliver. I don't know, but he would never even try. Grady Little at least tries and he thinks about it. No matter what you think about him and what he did with Pedro Martinez in the playoffs that year.
Well, he's been forgiven since they won the championship after that, so we're kind of over that. Thankfully. now you say you like the small ball better, so you're more of like a National League fan versus the American League, or you think, what do you think? You're in favor of the no DH type of ruling, or you like the fact?
Yes, I am. Designated hitter is one of the stupidest ideas I've ever heard of.
Wow.
Let the pitcher hit. God damn it! It's a baseball game. Having a designated hitter to me is like cheating. It's worse than steroids.
And what about
He can't hit, so we don't want him to get hurt. So let's not have. I don't even know why that came about. I don't know about the history of it.
I'm not sure. I thought it had to do with to prevent like beaning beanball or some shit like that, where like, you know, if a guy got beaned, then they have to retaliate, and you don't want them to bean the pitcher or something like that. But I'm not sure.
Well, too bad. Be a man, Jesus! I wish more people would get beaned. I like when people there would be that.
I do like that too, actually.
No, if you're gonna start plunking people, be prepared for the consequences. If you don't like it, then don't do it.
No way. Now, what about this was really surprising, and I'll throw this one at you, because when Kimball said it, I was like, what the hell is this guy talking about? But I guess I haven't been a fan as long as you guys have, so I'm used to it, or it came along sort of as I got into baseball. But the interleague play, Kimball's anti-interleague.
I'm not.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's that big a deal.
I think it's interesting, exciting, and I like it. I mean, I've only really been going to baseball games since like the mid-'90s. You know what's very funny? I didn't really care about baseball till about '95 when, of all people, you know who John Shirley is, the cyberpunk writer?
No, but cyberpunk sounds familiar.
Yeah, well, it's a genre. He's best known for being the screenwriter on The Crow, the movie with Brandon Lee. And lots of cyberpunk novels. Mac Tony's is a big fan of his. He was moving out of L.A. and I went over to his house and he had all these books in the front yard and he said, "Take what you want." I'm just going to throw them away. And I was like, there was that Ken Burns documentary on baseball that was on public TV. Mm-hmm. He had the book from that.
Oh wow!
This big fat book, and I said, "What are you doing with this?" He goes, "Somebody gave it to me. I don't want it." So I took it and I read it. And I ended up reading it like 3 times in a row, the entire book.
Wow.
And I was suddenly very interested. I don't know why. And I started playing. No, I think it was like '93, because then I started playing softball, which I've been doing ever since then. And I've been in softball leagues for 13 years now. And it was a really weird way to get interested in it. And the main reason I'm a Dodger fan is because I live here. You know, if I lived in Boston, I'd be a Boston fan. I'd still follow the Dodgers and be interested. But, you know, if I lived in Boston New York is about the only place I wouldn't be a fan. But I wouldn't live in New York. There's no way I would live there.
Now, what about, do you have a pick for this year before I ask you one other thing about the Dodgers here? Do you have a pick for who you think is going to win the World Series?
The Yankees are overdue. I hate to say it, but they're overdue. And you know what? Steinbrenner's probably going to fire everybody if they don't win. He wants one every year or two, so But past that, like I told you before, I don't really follow other teams too much. Mm-hmm. I follow them when they're in town, so I can see how the Dodgers are going to do against them.
Yeah.
New York, of course, and Cardinals, of course, and a lot of people seem to think the Dodgers have a lot better shot this year than they did last year. I'm inclined to believe, and because I don't have my season tickets anymore, it's a perfect time for them to do it.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, it would make sense because I would have a real hard time getting tickets to the postseason when last year all I had to do was say, "I'll take these, and these," and pay for them up front. I still have from last year and 2 years before when they're in the playoffs. I've got World Series tickets for World Series that never happened.
Oh man!
And they're huge too. These huge tickets are like 5 times the size of a normal baseball. It's like Game 3 World Series Dodgers versus whoever.
Oh man! And when we had Go Rightly on, see, I know you and Adam are friends and stuff, and probably bust each other's chops a lot. He said he was talking about the giving you some hell about the MK Ultra Dodgers story and how wearing a Dodgers cap endorses MK Ultra or something. Can you shed light on this Dodgers MK Ultra connection that I'd never heard
Well,
of?
the first thing I'll shed light on is Adam looks for any way to get at me and get my goat about the Dodgers. I don't know why he wants to fight with me about the Dodgers and the Giants. It seems, to me it's like, because people will get into like fist fights in the stands during Dodgers-Giants games. It's like, what the hell? It's just a baseball game, you guys. What are you so serious about?
Yeah.
And so I don't like to fight with him on it. If I can get a good dig in once in a while, if he starts it, I will. But the one way to get at me on that was he pointed out that in Kathy O'Brien's book, Transformation of America, TRANCE, Formation of America. If you don't know about the book, she claims to have been a CIA sex slave for 20 years or something.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like. And she names all these people that she was a sex slave for, and one of them was Ronald Reagan, and another one was Bill Clinton, and just about everybody who was anybody. If you read I bought the book in Roswell in '97 at the 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
And we went back to the room, and I sat there with a couple friends. We just read passages out of the book and rolled on the floor laughing. So this is where the information is coming from, folks.
Okay.
But she does claim in the book that Tommy Lasorda, when they won the series in 1981, was using CIA mind control techniques and CIA mind controlled baseball players to win. Based on the MK Ultra protocols or discoveries or whatever. So Adam likes to point that out to me to say that they didn't legitimately win the series. It's like, so Kirk Gibson was an MK Ultra trainee or something. It's like, dude, you're grasping at straws here. I think it's funny. I don't think there's any truth to it, but I sure think it's damned funny.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what about 1988 when, he doesn't have an answer for that.
There you go. And so, like I said, we had you on the show way long ago now at this point, really long time ago, over a year and a half at this point.
Ages.
I know. And luckily...
In the Triassic, I think I was a guest.
Well, yeah, after you were on the show, then Rick Doty had this big renaissance with Serpo and everything. It was crazy. But, so what have you been up to since you've been on Binnall of America? And obviously you got this big UFO Mystic blog going and stuff. And what have your adventures been since the last appearance on the show?
Well, I finished. Had I finished? Yeah, I'd finished Weird California by then. Recently, they recruited me to do a series of shoots for commercials for Budget Rent-A-Car. Where I know you're sitting there looking at your phone, going, "Huh? What?"
Yeah.
I guess they're gonna. I'm a corporate whore at the pig trough right now. Well, they're not using my face or anything because who the hell knows who I am. But they're paying me to go out to places that I wrote about, like the Racetrack Playa in Death Valley and the Hollywood Cemetery here, and a couple haunted houses and things like that with a video camera, which they sent me. And I guess I just shoot segments for them, at these various places, and they use it to advertise car rentals. Go on a weird vacation. Weird. So that's something I'm just about to start doing.
Awesome.
Maybe it'll turn into something where I don't have to, have a regular job a couple days a week, which would be nice. It's on hold, but I'm supposed to write a book with another researcher, but I'm not going to say who that is right now until it turns into an actual deal.
Yeah.
Has to do with whistleblowers in the government, which I'm slightly ambivalent about, but that's the main reason I wanted to work on it. It's like, okay, convince me that there's something here and there's some truth to it. Let me look into it, be forced to look into it and see, if anybody like, I'm trying to think of Bob Lazar or Doty for that matter. Is there anything to these people's stories that we should listen to that is legitimate and deserves attention and credibility, that gets closer to some answer about at least what the government knows, which I've already made my decision about that. I don't think they really know very much at all.
Yeah.
I think they know a lot more than we do about the mechanics of things. Not the mechanics, but facts.
Yeah.
They have no idea about why, from where, and what for.
Yeah, the big
just
questions.
as much in the dark as you and I and anybody else who's interested in UFOs is.
Now, when I also saw, well, first of all, how did UFO Mystic come about? Just a collaboration between you and Nick?
No, somebody approached us, this guy, the same people own and operate the Crypto Mundo site.
Oh, okay.
That Lauren Coleman is the main writer on, and said, we'd like to do a UFO blog, eventually maybe to get advertising, make a little bit of money, which I'm not going to hold my breath, but they got Nick on board, and they said, do you know of anybody else who might be good for this? And luckily for me, he said, yeah, Greg. So we met with him. We went back and forth with a contract for about a year, through about 4 different iterations till it got to the point that where Nick and I liked it. We signed the contract, and we started blogging. And the main reason I did it is to keep my writing going. And I notice now when I write something, I don't even have to think about it. Just like, bam, it comes out, and I look at it, and I say, maybe I need to edit, and then I'll look and go, well, no, I don't. That's pretty much okay.
Yeah.
Even back in December, when I hadn't written anything for about 8 months, at least, constantly, makes me feel a lot better about picking up a story or finding something I want to write about, an opinion, and being able to do whatever I want, and then have people react to it, because I really like that part.
Yeah.
I love having people answer me, point out something that's wrong, agree with me, whatever, because if you just want to make pronouncements and have everybody agree with you, then why bother?
Exactly.
I want people to interact, point things out, discuss things with me, and debate, because sometimes they'll change my mind, and other times I'll change their mind, and other times we just agree to disagree, which is also nice too. And the other thing about UFO Mystic is it keeps me on top of the subject matter, because I have to.
Yeah.
Unless I've got something pushing me or pulling me or whatever you want to call it, unless there's somebody expecting something, I have a really hard time getting off my butt and doing anything.
I know what you mean, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, because, what you have is like, people are expecting a show next week. I better get off my butt and do it.
Exactly, yeah.
Somebody is expecting a blog in the next day or two. I better get off my butt and think of something to write. It's like having a column. And I really like that. And I've gotten book ideas out of it. I've met new people. And, to me, that's more than enough reason to be doing this blog, and I've really enjoyed it, and I've learned a lot of stuff just by doing the blog.
And the last thing I want to ask you about was that you, on UFO Mystic, you had mentioned that you were maybe getting your hands on a copy of the Bill Moore, infamous Bill Moore speech from the MUFON convention. Any update on that?
No, I'm still waiting for the person to get back to me. The one guy that said he had it says that he doesn't know where it is now, so somebody else at Laughlin told me they had it. So I just have to keep nudging them until it gets sent along to me. It's actually a videotape of him.
Nice.
So, but the thing is, I said, well, is it a videotape of him or all the people up? Because he was speaking at a podium, but there were people sitting up at the front with him, like Hal Starr, who was running. I think he was the head of Nevada MUFON at the time. Some other people, and but I hope that the microphone was decent enough, omnidirectional enough that you can actually hear what people were yelling in the audience, because there were some choice things yelled at Bill Moore that night. And I want to see if I can remember it right. I've got the original copy of the sheet that he read off of, done on a dot matrix printer that he used in Vegas, with all of his cross-outs and notes and everything on it.
Oh, cool.
So I also want to compare it with the not little, it's like 40 pages long, and see where he went off the script, if he did, and just to have that would be interesting. And then see if I can get permission maybe to post it, or if MUFON wants to sell it. I don't know who owns the tape. I guess it was for MUFON, so I guess they would own it.
Yeah, I would love to see it. That's something like I think a lot of hardcore UFO fans would want to see that. People who know of the story, definitely, who never saw it. Yeah, because at the very least, you'll see him stop and look at the audience for a while until everybody calms down. Oh yeah, it would just be amazing. I think just a couple times, Hal Starr had to get up there and say, he's here and now he's our guest, and you have to let him say what he wants. So quiet down, class. Oh wow, that's like Dylan Goes Electric almost. Yeah, that's exactly. There's I don't know, there's 500 people at least, maybe 800 or more sitting in that room. I remember it was packed. It was standing room only. And I was sitting about halfway up the row, up
the row of chairs there in the hall, and I had just started getting back interested in ufology again, and I didn't know what the hell was going on. I was like, what the hell are these people all so mad about?
Yeah.
And I think that was like one of these defining moments that made me want to get back into the subject and find out what was going on, because I had known Bill like maybe 6 months before that. I had met up with him, talked to him, we started, just hanging out and having lunch and talking about stuff, and then he said, I'm going to blow their socks off with this. Well, what is it, Bill? I don't want to tell you. And then I just kind of sat there and ran his table, his like merchandise table for the weekend, just to help him out. Then he gave this speech, and I sat out there and watched people come out, and they were yelling at me. Where did you get this crap from? I was like, I don't know. I don't even know what you guys are talking about.
Oh, wow. Oh, man.
Because he ran out the back door, and he said, you and there was another guy helping him. Could you please sit at the table after it's done and sell copies of the speech?
Weird.
And that was quite exciting. I had no idea what was going on and why people were so mad, but I sure wanted to find out, and that's why I'm sitting here talking to you today.
There you go. Well, thanks. Obviously, we're going to be talking more on Sunday on Radio Mysterioso.
Yes, it's Sunday from 8 to 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time on killradio.org.
Awesome. Yes, we'll be discussing all sorts of UFO related matters, and of course, you can find out more information on Greg Bishop at UFOmystic.com. And do you still use the excluded middle, right?
Yeah, people can go there. It's basically a sealed in amber version of the magazine with occasional updates about what I'm doing and points of interest that have to do with people who are into the magazine. Yeah.
Awesome. So they can also check out excludedmiddle.com, EXCLUDEDMIDDLE.com, and UFOmystic.com, UFOMYSTIC.com. Those are the websites. I'm looking forward to talking to you again on Sunday. Thank you very much for coming on the show, Greg. I really appreciate it.
Thanks again. I hope I can be on again soon.
Definitely. It was great talking to you again.
Have it, folks. That does it for the Binnall of America Audio Baseball Special. Big thanks to Adam Gorightly, Paul Kimball, and Greg Bishop for taking some time out of the past week to come on the program. And, of course, retroactive thanks to Stan Friedman and Lauren Coleman for coming on the program back in the day. Hope you enjoyed the Binnall of America Audio Baseball Special. Moving right along now, we're going to skip over Binnall of America Audio listener feedback. The reason is simple. It's late already in the process. It's Sunday afternoon. The episode should have been up last night. We're all set back by a computer malfunction at the Binnall of America Audio headquarters. Our main desktop computer completely shit the bed on us last Sunday. And as a result, the whole operation is running off of a laptop computer right now with all new editing software, and it's quite a finagled mess, and I was definitely in over my head a tad here with the 5 guests and the new software and trying to run it all on the laptop instead of on the desktop. So the episode was pushed back quite a bit, and we want to get it out to you as fast as possible, so we'll skip over Binnall of America Audio listener feedback for this week. If you have thoughts on this episode or a previous episode or the show in general, a comment, a guest suggestion, a critique, whatever, I can handle it. There's 2 ways to go about doing it. Go to binnallofamerica.com, click the contact button in the top right-hand corner of the screen, or simply write to BOAAudio@hotmail.com, BOAAudio@hotmail.com. Either one of those methods puts your correspondence on the road to being featured on Binnall of America Audio listener feedback. Up next, it's time for the thanks. Big thanks to the BinnallofAmerica.com staff for your help and support with the audio series and the website. It's weeks like this that I really and truly appreciate them tremendously. The computer goes down, everything's haywire at the headquarters, but I'm still getting top-notch reading material from the BOA writers to put up on the site for the great readers of BinnallofAmerica.com. If you missed out on what they had for you this past week, let me give you a rundown of what it was. R. Lee's Trickster's Realm dealt with the McMinnville Trent Farm UFO case. She's done a lot of great research on this and had an amazing article dealing with that and the trickster element to the whole thing. Leslie's Gray Matters responded to the Fife Symington Phoenix Lights story that made big news in ufology last week. She has a passionate response to Fife's revelation of his UFO sighting that has to be read to be believed. and it really echoes some of my opinions on the big story from the past week. And after that, on Wednesday, Chiron had the K-Files Movie Loft, where he reviewed Loose Change, the second edition. Great review of the film for those of you who haven't seen it. It gives you a nice overview of what it's all about and what Chiron liked and disliked about the film. The K-Files Movie Loft continues to break around here in esoteric movie reviews, so big ups to Chiron for this great review of Loose Change, a film I haven't seen yet, but now I'm thinking about checking it out, thanks to the K-Files Movie Loft. Those are some of the columns that were up at BinnallofAmerica.com this past week. As I've been saying week in and week out here on the program, if you're only listening to Binnall of America Audio, you're only getting half the story. You got to read the columns at BOA. BinnallofAmerica.com. Make it a part of your everyday search for esoteric news and opinion. Throwing a little plug in, it may be too late by the time you hear this, but I should say it. Tonight I will be on Greg Bishop's Radio Mysterioso, as you may have heard from our interview just now. I will be on there from 8 to 10 p.m. Pacific Time, 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. Eastern Time. Phone calls will be taken in the second hour, so if you've downloaded this in the evening tonight and you're listening to it on Sunday night and you want to call in or check out the interview, you can simply go to killradio.org at 8 p.m. Pacific Time or 11 p.m. Eastern Time and get your fix of Double Binnall Weekend on Greg Bishop's Radio Mysterioso. When I get the word from Greg on the MP3s of the episode, I will keep you posted, and we'll have a link up for those at BinnallofAmerica.com once Radio Mysterioso has the MP3s up and running post-interview. So either way, if you're not around tonight, or if you're listening to this on April 2nd and you missed the interview, you'll be able to hear it sometime in the not-too-distant future. If you're a long-time Binnall of America audio listener, an appreciative newcomer, and you want to help support the audio series and the website, there's a way to do it. You go to BinnallofAmerica.com, you click the PayPal button, and you make a donation. BOA is a grassroots operation, and sometimes a grassroots operation needs some water, and that's where you come in. Click the PayPal button, make a donation, help this movement grow. Next week on the program, there's not going to be a program. There's not going to be a program for the next 2 weeks. It's the Binnall of America Audio spring break. I'll be honest with you folks, with the computer crashing and this changeover in software and just the general style in which we do the program, pre-tapes, we need a little break here. We're getting a little burned out, and we figured it's perfect timing. Spring has begun. Take the first 2 weeks of April off. Collect the final batch of interviews as we head towards the season finale of Binnall of America Audio Season 2. I can't believe it. I can't believe it's almost the season finale, but it is. It's coming up. We are already hard at work parsing a very select list of potential people to be the Binnall of America Audio season finale. That will be in June. Of course, there's tons and tons more episodes coming up before then. They will start up April 21st, 2007. Binnall of America Audio kicks off the final leg of Season 2. There's only a handful of places left in the calendar here for Binnall of America Audio Season 2. Who will fill out those final places? It's a mystery for now. We know who some of the people are. We've already recorded the interviews. Stay tuned to BinnallofAmerica.com over the next 2 weeks as we will tease out who some of the final guests will be here on BOA Audio Season 2. And on that note, we call it a week. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the baseball special. You'll be hearing from me again on April 21st, 2007, when BOA Audio returns. Until then, enjoy the spring break, my friends. Until then, this is Tim Binnall, signing off.